I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
And I'm going to tell you how you can make an offer that a seller can't refuse. In this video, I'm going to answer the burning question, what should I offer on a house? I get this question all the time, so I figured I might as well just go ahead and make a video about it. And I'm going to tell you some strategies on what you should offer on a house, whether you're in a buyer's market or a seller's market. And yes, there are areas where we're still in a seller's market in some places. So I'm going to address both of those issues, both of those strategies. So let's get into it. Now, I am going to be giving you the strategies, and we're going to talk about how, I'm going to give you a range. How high over or how much, how much below the list price are we going to offer on this house? We're going to get into that. But before we get into it, let's talk about a couple of key factors. One of the key factors is the comparables. What did the houses nearby sell for? That is a really big deal. It's super important. You're going to want to know what the houses nearby have sold for in the area. Similar houses. The next factor is days on the market. Of course that matters. Did it just get on the market and you might be the first one to offer? Well, or has it been sitting for a while? That's important. The condition of the house. Does it look really good? Did they just fix it up, or is it looking really tired? You're going to want to know that. Your budget, of course. You want a budget, and we'll talk about that too. And then also seller's motivation. A lot of times, real estate agents sometimes don't really get into that. But it's important. You want to find out how flexible they are. How bad do they want to sell their house? So anyway, those are the key factors we're going to go over. So let's get into it. So first, let's talk about making an offer on a house in a buyer's market. So what that means, what a buyer's market means, is that there are more houses on the market than there are buyers in the market. So, you've got an abundance of houses to choose from. What that means is that the sellers are going to have to compete against each other for your business. It gives you a lot of leverage as a buyer, maybe not so good for the sellers. A rule of thumb is you will want to come in on your offer about 5 or 10% less than the list price. That's just a rule of thumb. But you want to go low enough so that there's room for negotiation, and you want to have a little bit of countering back and forth in a buyer's market. So you want to, have that back and forth, but you also want to have that number in mind of where you want to meet, and you want to go, base your offer based on where you really want to be. So when you're making the offer, this is where the comps come in. You've got to come in with your receipts. You're going to want to do the comps and find out what the houses in the area have sold for recently. And you're going to want to say, all right, 123 Main Street sold for this price, and over there at 100 Elm, Northeast Elm, that one sold for this price. So that justifies our offer at this price. And hopefully the listing agent or the selling agent will have already done that research, and his price will be right there in that range. Or maybe the market has changed and now the house demands a lower price. So anyway, you need to bring the comps, and you need to have them available so that it can help in the negotiations. So now let's talk about inspections and repairs. In buyer's markets, you're going to get the, repairs and, the stuff that needs to be fixed. You're going to get that fixed, or maybe you're going to get a credit on the sale, which is a great thing. So you're going to want, but look, don't come to the seller with a laundry list of items. You don't want, to have a lot of cosmetic things. You just want to stick to, mechanical, environmental, and stuff like that. What I usually tell people is just the stuff that's going to cost more than $500. That I think is a pretty good rule of thumb. You just want to stick, have them help you pay for the stuff that's going to be really expensive. If you're going to ask them to regrout the tub, you're probably not going to get that. And but I have had some buyers who ask for that type of stuff and they get it. But if it's cosmetic, they probably are not going to give it to you. So don't come with a huge long list when you're after the inspection, for asking the seller to repair. So seller concessions. So you can ask for the seller to help you pay for some of your closing costs. In the last 5 years, the market's been kind of booming, and buyers weren't getting any seller concessions. But now, you can go ahead and ask for help with the closing costs. Somewhere, at the low end, like $3,000 to $5,000, up to like $10,000, depending on where you are and what the price of the house is, and the circumstances. But you can definitely ask for help with concessions depending on your offer. So, ask for that, and people are definitely getting it right now. So, anyway, you can ask for seller concessions and help with closing. Now, in a buyer's market, what some people will do is they'll look at the house and they'll go, okay, I can make this offer as is. So what that means is they're going to buy the house as is. They're going to do their inspections, but they're going to buy the house like it is and offer a lower price. Now, if you're in a strong buyer's market, and the seller really wants to offload the house, sometimes they'll just accept that. Same thing, you're going to come in 5 to 10% below cost and below the list price. You don't want to go crazy. Don't go too far below, because they're not going to accept the offer, and then when you come back with a counter offer, they're not even going to want to mess with you because it left a bad taste in their mouth. It just happens. Also, cash offers, kind of the same thing, 5 to 10% lower, and you can make a lower offer based on the cash. Why is this the case? Well, sellers love cash offers. For one thing, it's a lot faster. Why is it faster? It's because you're not waiting for the approval, from the mortgage company. You're not getting financing, and with a mortgage, with the contingencies on a mortgage, and you're waiting for financing, sometimes what happens in the 11th hour, they come up with something, and the buyer can't buy the house, and now the seller's got to go put the house back on the market. So that happens, and that is why cash offers are very attractive to sellers in some cases, and sometimes you can get a lower price just by paying cash. By the way, if we hadn't met yet, my name is Andre Duga. I'm a local realtor here in the Des Moines area. So if you're looking to move here and you're looking for homes, give me a call. I'll send you a custom list of houses that check all your boxes, and we'll move from there. My contact information is in the description. So now we're going to talk about strategies of making an offer on a house in a seller's market. You're going to want to come in with a really strong offer right off the bat. But before you do that, your agent, I'm going to call the selling agent and say, hey, how many offers do you have on the house? Have you had any serious interest on the house? That tells them, first of all, it tells them that we're interested in the house. And so that if somebody else gets interested in the house, they know to call us and say, hey, listen, they're about to put in an offer, so you better hurry up with yours. But also, we're going to try to find out, have they had any offers? It's a seller's market. Remember, maybe how many offers have they had? You can't usually get the price of the offers from the listing agent, but every once in a while they'll slip and give you some idea of what the offers are. You can ask questions like, is it a strong offer? Is it, give me a ballpark, let me know. And sometimes they'll slip and give you some really good information so you'll know what the offers are on the house. What I've found is that a strong offer usually means that it's list price or just above. What I've found also is that if they say it's a really strong offer, then that's well above list price. So how much over ask are we going? Typically you want to go 1% to 3% over the asking price in a seller's market, but it depends. This is where I'm going to look at the comps, and we're going to look at houses similar to what you're buying, and we're going to find out, okay, over here it sold for 1% over asking, or right at asking price, and over here it went for 3%, depending. And also sometimes you'll find, oh well, this type of house sold for 1% versus 3% on this type of house. So I'm going to take a look at that, and you're definitely going to want to look at the comparables, and then fit, and then make your offer based on that. Another strategy we're going to talk about are the contingencies. And yes, that is inspection and appraisal. And, definitely do not waive the inspection. The inspection is extremely important. You want to know what's going on with the house. Don't waive it. You can restrict it if you want to: structural, environmental, mechanical, and safety. But don't waive it. Too many times people will buy the house and then find out that there's a huge problem, cost them anywhere from $10,000, $15,000 all the way up to $30,000. You don't want that. I haven't had a whole lot of people that I represent skip the inspection or waive it because I'm insistent. But I have had some people do the inspection and then find out that there's a large cost, and the seller either repairs it or we come to some sort of agreement with the negotiations. But don't waive it. I know you want the house really bad, but it's not worth it to buy a house and then come up with a whatever. I mean, $10,000 is a big deal to me. I don't know about you, but $10,000, you find something really bad and it's going to cost you. Just trying to save you a little bit of money. Now let's talk about the appraisals. This is something you can do. It can be a big thing. You can waive the appraisal gap. Now, what does that mean? Let's just say that the house is worth $600,000 and you offer $650,000. So it appraises and the appraisal comes back at $600,000. Well, that gap is, the $50,000, that's the appraisal gap. And you are saying, when you waive the appraisal gap, that you are willing to come to the table with the $50,000 if you make that offer. I don't recommend doing that. What you can do is limit the appraisal gap. You can specify that you offer $650 and it's a $600,000, and then let's say it appraises for $625. Then you can say, I want to limit this to I'll pay up to $25,000 in the appraisal gap. And so that's what that means. You're willing to pay, if it appraises for $625, then you'll go ahead and pay the $650. Also, talk to your loan officer before you do any of this kind of stuff, because often, sometimes they can use the PMI and put it in your mortgage and come up with that extra money. You're going to pay for it, but you're going to pay for it in a larger mortgage. I don't know all the details. I'm not a lender, but the lenders can tell you all about the appraisal gap and what you can do and when you make that offer. But you can definitely, use the appraisal gap for a strategy in a seller's market. So I want to touch on escalation clause. Now, what is an escalation clause? Well, escalation clause is where let's go back to the $600,000 house. So say the house is listed at $600,000 and you make an offer, let's say at $625. But you say, I am willing to pay whatever the amount. Let's just make it easy math. I am willing to pay $5,000 over any bona fide offer. Now, your real estate agent, I am going to make sure that it's a real offer before we go ahead and just up the payment. Anyway, so let's just say somebody comes in and they offer $610,000. Well, your escalation clause says that you're going to pay $5,000 over any bona fide offer. So your offer automatically goes up to $615. They come back, your offer says something like, I'll pay $5,000 over up to $625,000. So they make an offer $610, yours automatically goes up to $615. They make an offer at $620, your offer automatically goes up to $625. I love escalation clauses. There's, here in the Des Moines area, it's kind of hit or miss. It really depends on the listing agent and the seller whether or not they're willing to accept it based on, in a seller's market. That's the only time you'd ever do that, of course. But it's kind of hit or miss. I love escalation clauses. I love the way that it works. If you're willing to pay a little more, but you don't want to make that high offer just yet, it's a great way to go. So now I'll talk to you a little bit about the terms. So this is a situation where you're going to want to, I will talk to the seller, the listing agent, and find out, how flexible they are. How bad do they really want to sell this house? What are some of the things that they need? Maybe they'll tell me exactly what they want, which is great when they do that. And then I can just come to you and say, look, they want this. But anyway, so one of the things you can do is like a lease back in the terms. What that is where you're going to close within 45 days, but you're willing to let them, the seller stay in the house, pack up, do whatever they need to do, find another house, close on the house that they're buying, whatever they need to do, you're going to give them another 30 days where they can live in the house. And, sometimes you can charge them rent, sometimes you can't. It kind of depends on how strong your offer is and all that stuff in the negotiation process. But a leaseback is a very effective tool. What you really want to do when you're making an offer, so you make the offer, first of all, you got to get the paperwork right. You want to have it all squared away, tied up, and make the offer with all the receipts, and you want to present it to the listing agent with, everything in it and say, look, this is our offer. This is why it's great. We're going to give you a lease back. We're going to do a escalation clause. We're willing to pay a little more, all that stuff. And you want to point out the positives and say, listen, like I talked about, we already talked about it, but you want to present it to them and you want to stand out. You want to be, the best offer, especially in a seller's market. So some other tips that I want to share with you is, most importantly, do not overbid on a house in a seller's market. Just don't do it. Don't get into a situation where you're uncomfortable with the mortgage payment. You overbid. It's way too much. You're going to regret it. Know your number. Know where you're comfortable, and don't get excited with the auction style bidding in the seller's market. And don't let the beautiful granite countertops encourage you to do silly things like overbid. Just don't do it. You're not gonna feel good about it, and especially if it's gonna stretch you financially, that's gonna be very stressful in the future. Just don't do it. Always have your walkaway number in mind. You don't let the pressure get to you, and you go over what your number is. Talk to your loan officer, talk to your spouse, whatever. Come up with a number and have that in mind, and don't go over it. You're going to want to stick to that number, because just same thing as with the last tip. You're not going to feel comfortable with it after you buy the house. It's not going to feel good. You're going to get stressed. So, have that number in your head. Be ready to walk away if the seller comes back at whatever that number is. Let's say 600 on that $600,000 house. If your number is 625, if he comes back at 626, that's not your number. 627, that's not your number. So stick to it. Have that number in your head and have good reasons for that number, and stick to it. And most importantly, work with a good real estate agent who are going to do these things for you, and who you have connected with, who you like, and who does the things that you need done. If you're in the Des Moines area, I'm that agent. Give me a call. My information is down below in the description. I'll be happy to help you. If you are anywhere else around the country and you're looking for a good agent, I can definitely find a good agent for you in your market that's going to treat you just fantastic. I got you covered. So I hope you found this video helpful. I hope these tips are going to help you in either a buyer or a seller's market. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.